This video is all about Assessment 1, the what, the why, and the how. This assessment asks you to confront one of the biggest challenges to psychology's mainstream approach to mental health. One that shocked the profession, but then that shock went away. But I want you to feel that shock. And that's what Assessment 1 is all about. Okay, so let's start off with the why. Well, I'm asking you to complete this assessment because the paper that is at the centre of it, the Rosenhan paper, made one of the most important challenges to mainstream psychological approaches to mental health, namely the concept of mental illness. At the time the Rosenhan paper was published, psychology and psychiatry were telling the world that such things as depression, anxiety disorders, schizophrenia and so on were mental illnesses that had a biological basis and could be reliably diagnosed. Now, the main tool of diagnosis was the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the DSM. The DSM is still the main tool used in psychology in the field of mental illness today, which I and a whole bunch of other psychologists are really disappointed about. We think that's really unfortunate. You know, other psychologists, like the members of the British Psychological Society's Division of Clinical Psychology, the professional body representing clinical psychologists in the UK, they released a public statement back in 2013 saying the DSM was flawed and it was time to move away from the medical diagnostic practices that dominate the mental health field. Now, just give you a quick history of the DSM, and it's going to be a quick history. It was developed after the Second World War and built upon systems that had been developed by the US Army to diagnose psychological disorders in World War I soldiers who returned home from the battlefield, you know, with their psychological scars. Now, the first version of the DSM was published in 1952. It soon became widely used in clinical practice by psychologists and psychiatrists. The DSM claimed, and still claims, to provide clinicians with an objective system of diagnosing mental illness. It was written and continues to be updated to this day by various committees of mental health professionals, including psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, neurologists, nurses and pediatricians. The DSM is, as of 2019, in its 5th iteration and is presently being updated. It's constantly being updated. New illnesses being so-called discovered every day. Now, by the 1970s, the DSM was widely used. Then came along David Rosenhan, and he blew apart the DSM and the theories and practices upon which it was based. Blew apart as in critiqued, not dynamite or other high explosives. I don't think they were used. Well, as far as I know, they weren't. That's why we're focusing on the Rosenhan paper. It was a powerful critique of a central idea in psychology, that human behaviour can be reliably and objectively classified. In this case, behaviour we label as mental illness. Now, the Rosenhan paper opens up for you a platform upon which you can engage in a social and cultural critique of psychology, because Rosenhan effectively shook the mainstream foundations of psychology, which is what this unit is all about. So it's a good place to start that process of engaging in a social and cultural critique of psychology. Now, in episode 7, I'll give you a fuller explanation of what we mean by social and cultural, so have a watch for that video as soon as it goes online. So that's really why I've set you the task that I have for Assessment 1. What about the what and the how? What do you write about and how do you write it? Well, I've produced some documents to guide you with this, so I'm going to direct you to those just now. Cue movie. So that's the how. Now those key documents, your briefing document and your marking rubric, are key. They're really important. Now here's another little animation to take you through those documents, the key points that are contained in those documents. So we're going to start talking about the Rosenhan paper in our week 2 tutorial, and you can continue talking about it via the comment section under this video in YouTube. And if you're enrolled in the unit, you can also start some discussion going via the discussion board on our Moodle site. So I'm looking forward to reading your thoughts. So that's all for now. Till next time. Ta-da.